I have been doing a lot of PvP based content inside the game recently, and I managed to push myself all the way to actually getting Quintus ready to summon. Because of that, I've seen my fair share of Cephas and Duchess and Necrit and Galathier and all sorts of ridiculously OP support champions, so I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about one of the ones that I think has fallen a little bit under the radar for most folks, even though we all know he's pretty good. That is going to be Pythion. Where is he at here exactly? Right here, Pythion. This fantastic support champion that was essentially a must-fuse fusion earlier on. 2023, I believe, is when he came out. As you can see from the reviews here, people absolutely love him, especially for Faction Wars. He has a straight up 5 rating out of 33, almost 3,400 reviews there. Let's go ahead, let's hop into his kit and see what makes him so good. So let's go ahead and find him here first of all, which is sometimes a struggle. A1, attacks one enemy 2 times, heals the ally with the lowest HP by 5% of this champion's max HP after each hit. This is a very nice A1 because it's scaling off his max HP. You're essentially getting a 10% heal. It also changes depending on who's the lowest HP. So if you top somebody up a little bit, say for example your nuker, and then somebody else on the team is lower HP, it actually switches target with the second hit to heal them for 5% essentially as well, which is very nice. A2 removes all debuffs from all allies, then heals them by 10% of their max HP, heals each ally by an extra 5% of their max HP for each debuff removed from them, also places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 2 turns. This is on a 3-turn cooldown. You could very easily make the case that this is actually better than Duchess's A2, considering that she just places the Veil instead of Cleansing. He's going to remove any sort of CC effects or anything like that, so it is a very, very solid skill, and I could definitely see that argument for him being a little bit better situationally, at least perhaps not in PvP, right? So Duchess is very useful for hiding your nukers and those sorts of things. A3 revives all dead allies with 50% HP and 50% turn meter, then places a strengthened buff on all allies for 2 turns. This is an absolutely insane revive, so he's bringing everybody back with 50% HP and 50% turn meter. It's also not one of those skills like Uko or somebody like that where it gets used just for the strengthen if nobody's dead. This is expressly saved for the event where somebody dies, they get revived with that turn meter, with that HP, and with that strengthen, which is very nice. Overlay, which is his passive, allies receive 5% less damage from skills for each buff on them, stacks up to 25%. So if we think about this, let's say you have 5 buffs on you, that's a 25% damage reduction. Then he comes in and places the strength, and that's a further 25% damage reduction. So you're already building yourself up to a 50% damage reduction before any sort of increased defense or those sorts of things. Keep in mind, at most, he's going to be bringing 2 buffs, so you do want to run him with another buffer. Somebody like a Mithrala, a Marichka, champions like that are absolutely fantastic. Mithrala is obviously going to be the more free-to-play friendly option. Even a Lydia with her buffs is going to help out significantly with reaching that threshold as well. And he has an aura for ally resistance in all battles by 60, which is insane. All battles auras are quite nice, so it's not necessarily the highest aura. I think we have some champions out there that are 80, 100. Lydia's 100 for arenas. However, once you get those higher auras, it is a little bit more locked into certain areas of the game. So for example, Pythion's aura is actually going to work inside the Siege game mode, for example, just since that is new content, it's its own area, and you need all battles auras to actually work there. What do I recommend for blessings? This one's going to depend a little bit. I do actually have him running in Ward of the Fallen, so essentially he's just going to get a little bit of decreased damage there, which is quite nice. If you don't want to run him in Ward of the Fallen, you could run Intimidating Presence if you're trying to get like a speed lead or something like that and you have him high awakened. You could obviously also run him with Polymorph if you have him high awakened. I'd only recommend running Polymorph on him if he has a 6-star awakening though, because anywhere up until 6 stars it does require accuracy, and you're not going to have accuracy whatsoever on this champion since he doesn't place any sort of debuffs. Life Harvest is also quite solid if you're just trying to decrease enemy HP when they're getting revived. This is especially useful for very, very tanky PvE situations where there's a lot of revivers. So perhaps Faction Wars if you're going against like a Cardinal or something like that. Or of course PvP, this is quite nice as well. Just make sure that you're not going against a champion that can actually heal that max HP, like a Marichka or somebody in a restore set or whatever it might be called. Speaking of which, he can also do a decent amount of restoring with Miracle Heal. So obviously he has a chance to restore destroyed max HP, so that could be good against somewhere like Sand Devils if you're running him. I actually used him to get to Sand Devil 25 the first time I was trying to beat that particular content. I'd basically just run a team with him and Marichka, where everybody would wipe at a certain stage. They get revived because of Marichka's passive, and then Pythion comes in and revives the Marichka as well, and then we just kind of kept going like that. It was very tedious, and it was manual, but I finally got my way to 25. I wish I had a higher awakening for Pythion. In all honesty, that'd be quite nice to have at least like 5 or 6 star on him, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and take a look at the masteries. For the masteries, I have Timely Intervention, so it's going to increase this champion's turn meter by 20% whenever an ally hero drops below 25% HP, which is quite nice. So if he's the last champion alive on the team, for example, he's going to get a significant turn meter boost. So this is quite a slept-on mastery, I would say, for a tier 6. I do also have him built out with counterattack masteries, which I think is quite important. So having a chance to counterattack is essentially going to mean that he has a higher chance to heal your team. And of course, we did kind of stick to the left side of the support tree as well to get increased heals. And then he also has a chance to increase his turn meter by 10% when a buff is removed or expires, which is quite nice. So he's basically just filling his own turn meter. He has masteries to stay fully alive. I would not recommend running him into the offensive tree for obvious reasons. There's not really too much to be gained there. In terms of stat priority, I'm going to go ahead as always and throw up my infographic here on screen so you can see where he's useful, what sort of stats we're looking on him, and what sort of sets are good. In terms of the sets, personally, I have a 5-piece protection, which is giving him a 25% chance to place a protected buff. And then he's also getting an additional 24 speed, 15% HP, and 20% resistance. I also have him in a speed set, and I have him in an immortal set. So not only is he able to heal from the A1s, he's also healing a little bit from that immortal set, and he's getting a large HP boost in the way of 15% from there as well. In terms of the gear, let me go ahead and show you the rolls here. This is a decent piece. I wish there was some resistance or something like that on it. It would be quite nice. We got some defense and some speed coming in here, obviously from the immortal. Keep in mind, this champion is nowhere near min-maxed. If you have better gear, you can definitely attain a better build than this, that's for sure. I might reascend this at some point to try and get an HP Ascension. Same thing with this, actually. I think the HP would be a little bit better to have. If you're building champions for PvP specifically, you want to focus on HP more than defense, because there's so many champions these days, and there's so many gear sets that just ignore percentages, if not all of the defense. So if you look at somebody even like a Sun Wukong, he's just flat out ignoring 75% of defense on his A2 if he's built in a Savage or a Lethal set. So your defensive scaling is not going to go super well, especially if you don't have like a Harima or something like that that you're pairing with the Pythion. Protection rings here as well. Could definitely do better there if it was rolled a little bit better, and then we got some resistance, of course. For overall stats, I have 95,000 HP, 4,200 defense, 298 on the speed, 274 on the resistance. In terms of weaknesses, this Pythion is relatively tanky. However, he does not have enough resistance. So in all honesty, I would maybe recommend bringing down that speed threshold, giving him a bit more resistance. In terms of ways you can build Pythion, you're looking at a couple of different options. So you can build him super slow just to be that AoE reviver for your team. In that case, you're probably going to want to run him in a 2-turn Stone Skin, so at least 6 pieces of Stone Skin, which is fairly easily attainable these days, considering that we can also use accessories to do it. If you're running him inside Stone Skin, what I would actually recommend that you do is you come over here and you get yourself Lightning Cage. So Lightning Cage is essentially going to stop another active buff from being stolen or transferred. So if he spawns in with just Stone Skin on him, and then you're going against like a speed team or something like that, and the Arbiter boosts up, she's going to activate more stacks of Lightning Cage on him, which means that that Stone Skin is going to be protected from being removed as well. So you're not relying on just the 50-50 chance of it being removed by somebody who's trying to strip you. So not only are you stacking Lightning Cage, you're stacking that 50-50, and you're stacking his resistance check as well. So it's a very solid way to try and keep any sort of buff on your champion if you need it. If you don't want to build him in Stone Skin, you can of course build him like I have him here with decent speed, semi-okay resistance. He's basically going to be resisting stuff like Sun Wukong strips and those sorts of things. But overall, 274 resistance is very low, especially if you're using him in the PvP scene. Even with his resistance aura, that's still only going to put us at about 330, which is really too low to consider it a significant amount of stats, right? So you need to put more into that. You could build him fast. You could build him with a lot of speed. I'm talking like closer to 400 speed if you can attain that on your account. Basically just something to get in there in front of your nukers, heal them up a bit, place the block debuffs, get that extra damage mitigation from the buffs being placed, all those sorts of good things. Another set that I definitely want to call out on him that I've been using on my support champions a lot recently is going to be in here. It's a 2-piece set we get from farming the Frost Spider inside the Doom Tower, actually. Bear with me, I'm getting there. It's going to be the Frostbite set. So this has a 15% chance to to block freeze debuffs, and a 10% chance to place freeze debuff on the attacker. So if you have somebody who's trying to hardcore focus your Pythion, you have a chance to basically place a freeze on them as well. This guy has very decent base stats. 105 base speed, 21,000 HP, and 1300 base defense is fantastic. It means you can scale very effectively any sort of HP or defense pieces that you're trying to put on him. I would not recommend empowering him unless you have at least 6 copies, so that you can get 1 plus forward and then have a spare. Pythion is one of those champions that you could use multiple of them, especially if you don't have a Duchess or something like that inside your live arena for different builds, right? Or having him inside tag team arena just to have a secondary champion there to help out as well is quite nice. Let's go ahead. Let's see if we can run him against some arena teams and see what we can make happen here. I have to do my daily challenges anyways. Let's go ahead and perhaps run it into a team like this. They are going to try and strip us and then place the block buffs, which is going to be a little bit questionable. Although he might be programmed to open with his A2, which could be interesting. I won't lie, Pythion has definitely fallen off inside the meta a little bit. It's definitely significantly harder to try and get champions, or to get teams rather, that are going to allow you to effectively use him. So let's go ahead and do something like this. We're probably going to run that aura, I think. And then we're also going to bring in the Mithrala. So essentially we're just fully countering the Rotos with the UDK, and then we're bringing in the Duchess. Sorry, not countering the Duchess. We're countering the Duchess with the Harima. Arbiter, I'm not too worried about. Arbiters are rarely ever tanky, and then we only have a 2-star awakened UDK here, so he's probably going to die pretty quickly, I would think, even if he is in Stone Skin. And then, of course, Harima is very good at taking out the Rotos as well because of her triple hit, so she can get those 2 hits needed to take out the Rotos, even if her first hit is absorbed by the enemy's UDK. As you can see, we already have a significant amount of buffs up here, so we're going to have a lot of damage mitigation coming in too, which is quite nice. We have the increased defense, which is going to come in here right away from Mithrala, hopefully. And then that is essentially going to help to boost the damage on our Harima as well, which is quite nice. And she doesn't do the A3 for some weird reason. Perhaps I should take it off auto when it comes back around to her turn. She definitely should have done the A3 there. My UDK also has a 2-piece of Frostbite on him as well. So sometimes you'll see that he actually gets freezes off on champions too if they're hitting into us. There you go, you can see some decent damage coming in from the Harima. She went ahead and did the AoE. The Rotos gets like 17 turns there back to back, which is pretty cool. I really wish it would proc and show you the effects of the Frostbite as well. As you can see though, mainly because of UDK and Pythion, everybody is staying nice and topped up. Nobody's taking really any sort of damage. There we go, we get the triple hit from the Harima, and everybody is taken down. Not even UDK, after soaking up all those hits, was really suffering all that much. We will probably go ahead and refresh here, I think. It's, like I say, it's a little bit harder to find a team that you can run this against these days. I think what we'll probably go ahead and do is maybe a team like this. So Harima very effectively counters the Sun Wukong. Sifi, I'm perfectly fine with her hitting me because she's just going to go into the UDK as well. Marichka is... Sorry, not Marichka. I cannot talk today, apparently. God damn it. Mithrala, they both had an M. I wasn't too far off. Mithrala is going to be a bit of a problem, though, but we do have the cleanse coming in from Pythion, which is quite nice. And then, of course, the Heffrak is countered by the Harima as well, so nothing too much to worry about there. We're not going to take too much damage from any of their nukers. And then, of course, even when he does the A2, the Sun Wukong is still going to be hitting into my UDK, so it's not a huge deal. He might end up stealing some of those buffs, so he tries, but you can see that we did resist it on most of the champions there. Pythion does get Hex on him from Mithrala, which is not too pretty, because that means that he has a very real chance of being petrified when he takes a turn. We have an A1 coming in there from Wukong, which is interesting. I think I'm going to go ahead and prioritize the Sifi just so they don't get like infinite revives off, because that would be a little bit annoying. You can see the life harvest coming in there. There's the freeze coming in on the Heffrak, so you can see the Frostbite set pulling a clutch there on the UDK, which is quite nice because there's no way for him to really recover from that. He essentially just misses his turn, unless he has a Mithrala to cleanse it, of course, which obviously some teams are going to. Mithrala is a very nice champion to pair if you're a free-to-play or a low-spend player with a Harima. The reason for that being is obviously she's placing not only the increased defense, but also an increased attack. She's also bringing you a shield, a cleanse. She's bringing so much stuff, a strengthen as well, right? There we go, we get the AoE, take them down. 1 minute and 9-second fight against a relatively tanky team. I would say that is a pretty good success story there if I've ever seen one. This team is kind of scary, mainly just because of the man-eater on there with his block debuffs. I can't really place like anything that would counter that. The one thing I want to call out as well, so obviously Narcissus does counter any sort of Pythion teams fairly effectively, and that is essentially obviously just because of the strengthen that's placed. So if we go and take a look at Narcissus, he's essentially going to place a double hit on targets under shield or strengthen, and if you recall, Pythion does actually bring in the strengthen on his A3 when he revives. So just be careful that if you revive somebody and going against the Narcissus and he hasn't used his A2 yet, he can actually just go ahead and basically one-shot your team by double hitting them because that strengthen is present. Just something to be very aware of. I have made that mistake myself previously, I won't lie. I'm thinking we could potentially run against this team, but we're going to have to bring somebody in who can do a strip. So we might end up bringing in somebody like a Sun Wukong for a little bit of extra damage as well. Anyways, these teams aren't particularly scary in terms of, you know, their damage output or those sorts of things, just because I know we can definitely survive it. We do get that buffs blocked. However, it was cleansed. I didn't know their champion cleansed. This guy with his Kaboom skill is absolutely insane, by the way. I want to make sure that we turn this off. I don't want Pythion reviving here. Let's go ahead and just slam into you, decrease your defense a little bit. There we go. Sun Wukong comes back. We're going to go ahead and heal up here as well. We got the pain link on us, which is quite annoying. Means that we're going to take a significant amount of damage anytime somebody is nuking, which is not good. We essentially just need to wait for... we need to wait for Wukong to come back and be able to strip and then place that block buffs again. There we go. The pain link is gone now. I will just manual this one. This one's definitely a bit of a tough team with how he's got the man-eater in there as well, placing that block debuffs. That makes this a little bit harder, that's for sure. We're going to go ahead and place the block debuffs, and we're going to go ahead and heal up a little bit. There we go. We keep getting smacked around a little bit, but that's perfectly okay. Let's go ahead and do this. Come on, Wukong. I need you to get a turn, buddy. Oh, we got the decrease attack. That's not fun. Okay. Let's go ahead. We can't really target anyone besides him anyways because of the taunt, which is a bit unfortunate. We can come in and AoE, however, though, and just lay out some damage there. So we do get this champion down low. I forget what his name is in all honesty. He is absolutely a terrifying champion to go against inside the live arena, by the way. If you're wondering how to counter him, it's not exactly free-to-play friendly, but I have noticed that obviously having a Marichka on your team helps because he does actually place a HP burn on everybody at the start of the round, and Marichka places a block damage whenever an HP burn gets placed on your team. We might lose this one in all honesty here just because of these goddamn pain links going up. We can't seemingly cycle around to the Wukong to get the buff stripped off in time, so we are definitely minimized on the damage. Here we go. Now we can make something happen, maybe. Wukong takes the unkillable as well, which is quite nice, so he's just going to straight up stay alive. We need Harima or somebody to come in with a little bit of damage now as well. That would be quite nice. There it is. Alright, let's go ahead and do nothing because we still have the goddamn taunt on this champion. This is ridiculous. Okay, we still can't do anything because the taunt's on the champion and he has unkillable. This is insane. Some of these mythicals are just absolutely wild, by the way. Now, you could argue that this is very much my fault because I have a Wukong who's attempting to strip as opposed to somebody else, but then I would argue that you're wrong. So, there's definitely better strippers that you could be using, that's for sure. I just don't want the block debuffs to go up again. That would suck. We got the provoke moved off. Still can't do anything. We might be able to sheep him, actually. No. Too much resistance, not enough accuracy on my team. There we go. He's actually converting back into his regular form. We might be able to kill him here now that he has the freeze on him, which would be quite nice. I think this guy revives. One of these guys revived, though, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. As you can see, though, the Pythion definitely helping us stay alive. You can see he's tanky enough to withstand these hits, which is quite nice. The Man-Eater's almost dead as well, and he does have a block buffs up, so he's not going to get any sort of unkillable bullshit or anything like that. Let's go ahead and take him out. We'll throw it back on auto here. There we go. I kind of want to just target Grazer here as well, just since he is their primary damage dealer that's left now. This team was incredibly tanky. Would have been a lot quicker, in all honesty, if I cared a little bit more about the champions I was bringing, but at the end of the day, I'm just trying to showcase you, Pythion. I'm not necessarily trying to showcase a bunch of other champions, so having the fight get prolonged like this is actually quite nice, because you can kind of see how effective he is at maintaining the team. Sustaining the team would be a better way to put that. He had, you can't see it because of my big-ass head, let me move. In a 3-minute, 4-minute arena fight, he had 500,000 healing, which is only really outdone by somebody like the Ultimate Death Knight, who was of course placing the continuous heals, and he was also healing himself every time they would get healed, so it was mainly self-heal. This guy healed the team for 500,000, which is insane. This guy is so good at keeping your team alive. I hope this little showcase helped. Let me know down in the comments below how you have your Pythion built. I'd be very interested to hear about that. Thank you guys all so much for the support on the video and the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.